Welcome to the Higher Arabia podcast, powered by Matchmaker Number One. I'm Ines Mokrani, recruiter, coach, and connector of talent across Europe and the Middle East. In this podcast, we explore the challenges, opportunities, and success stories of hiring in one of the world's most dynamic regions. Let's dive in. Welcome back to our Leadership Insights session. Today, we're diving into something many leadership books kind of sidestep: power and influence, and how decisions are actually made in the Middle East.
Yes, absolutely. So we've seen that in this region. It's not just about ticking boxes on an org chart, right?
Exactly. It's like power here is less about formal titles and more about the trust networks and relationships. In the Middle East, decisions don't always follow the written structure. They flow from reputation, timing, and the strength of those connections.
Yep, totally. Interesting. Now, how does that really contrast with what most Western leaders believe about power?
Well, Western leaders often look for power in titles and formal authority, like where the decision-making sits in an org chart. But the real influential forces in the Middle East are often the people who build trust and have long-standing relationships. Think of it like this. It's not the person with the biggest badge, but the one who earns respect quietly.
I see. That makes sense. So, in this context, even if the person with the title is present, they might not be the one who actually steers decisions.
Right on. In fact, the dialogue here clearly points out that influence is relational before it is positional. You might have a formal decision maker who in reality isn't driving the process at all if the real influences, like trusted advisors or long-standing familial ties,
Exactly, very true. So it sounds like Western leaders sometimes misstep by treating this as just politics, whereas it's really about social capital and trust. Would you agree?
Totally. And the input really hammers home that point. In the Middle East, bypassing the correct relationship networks basically means you're speaking to the wrong people. It's not politics, it's about the societal fabric of trust and reputation.
Absolutely, yeah. I also caught that this dynamic influences how communication should work. There was that bit contrasting direct Western communication with what seems to be an emphasis on effectiveness in the Middle East.
Yes, exactly. Western styles often prize directness, but in the Middle East, being too direct, public, even confrontational, can actually be counterproductive. It might come off as damaging, disrupting the delicate balance of relationships.
I get that. So even if the recommendation is right, its impact is lost if the delivery is, say, too blunt.
Right. It's like saying truth without the soft layers of relationship building means you're, damaging the momentum. It's not what you say, it's when and how you say it.
True indeed. This makes one think. What about the pace of decision-making? There was a point about speed in communication and credibility.
Oh yes, the idea is that in the Middle East, speed is a signal of confidence. Decisions are made with, around 70% clarity and then refined, instead of waiting for 100% certainty, which might come off as insecure. It's very different from, say, a slow, deliberative process that Western organizations might favor.
Interesting, yeah. I can see why that would be jarring for someone used to a slower, more methodical process. But it does raise a question. Does this approach risk poor decisions because of the lack of complete clarity?
That's a very good point. Some might argue that, but it's really about balance. It's like making a timely decision that can then evolve rather than waiting forever. The inherent risk is managed by the network of trust that can quickly correct course.
Another standout element was the emphasis on protecting one's reputation. Could you expand on that?
Sure. Essentially, reputation is like memory. Once it's damaged, even if technically your ideas are sound, decisions can slow down around you because people become wary. Leaders are advised to guard not only their own dignity, but also that of others. It's about building long-term social capital.
Right, that's critical. Kind of a full circle idea, isn't it? Trust, reputation, and moving decisions smoothly all tie together. But I wonder, isn't it a bit too, cautious? Could this ever stifle necessary debate?
I see where you're coming from. It might seem overly cautious on the surface, but in truth, this approach is about consensual, connected leadership. It's not meant to stifle debate, but to encourage constructive dialogue. The beauty is that the leaders who exercise this restraint usually have deep relationship bases enabling more effective, albeit measured, dissent.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. And what about the pitfalls? There were points outlining what leaders should avoid, right?
Absolutely. The guidance suggests a few missteps: over-relying on formal authority, ignoring key relationship builders, being too public or overly direct, assuming silence means yes, and treating influence as manipulation rather than a serious responsibility. It's almost like a roadmap for what not to do if you want to be effective in this
Definitely.
language.
That really hits home the idea that leadership here is less about overt power and more about subtlety and connection.
Exactly. It's like power isn't something that you trumpet about. Instead, it emerges naturally when you have integrity, calm confidence, and the right connections. The lesser focus on control and more on connection is what sets apart effective Middle Eastern leadership.
Absolutely right. I find the real-life examples particularly enlightening. One example described a European executive who focused solely on the official leadership team, only to find the real decision-making power resided with senior advisors and long-term trusted relationships. That must have been such an eye-opener.
Indeed. That scenario perfectly illustrates the disconnect. While the executive followed formal structures, the true influencers, those who carry the social capital, weren't engaged. It resulted in delays and even a sort of polite stalling.
True, very telling. And the second example about the direct but confrontational recommendation that even if data and facts are spot on, the delivery style can mute what should be an effective contribution?
Exactly. When recommendations are too public and direct, they can create discomfort instead of rallying the group immediately. It's like delivering the right message in the wrong tone and ultimately slowing things down.
Yes, exactly. But, isn't there a risk here? I mean, if you always soften the delivery, might that not dilute the impact of the truth being delivered?
That's a fair challenge. However, it's not about diluting the truth. It's about timing, context, and the relationship. The idea is to place the truth within a well-nurtured, trusted framework. That way, the truth resonates more strongly rather than coming off as blunt or alienating.
I see your point there. So if we sum it up, what are the key takeaways for someone wanting to lead effectively in the Middle East?
Well, the input highlights several essential strategies. First, build relationships long before you need them. Second, observe and identify who truly moves the room, not just who occupies the formal positions. Third, always protect dignity, yours and that of others, because reputation is paramount. Fourth, make confident decisions, even if not every detail is crystal clear. And lastly, earn trust consistently rather than forcing it.
That's really deep. It really turns the Western approach on its head, doesn't it?
Definitely. It emphasizes that leadership in the Middle East isn't about overt control. Power is kind of a silent byproduct of genuine, deep-rooted connections and trust. Influence is earned, not announced. It's like a quiet strength that grows over time.
Exactly. And that essentially contrasts with the more transactional nature of Western leadership, where authority might be loudly proclaimed rather than quietly imbued through actions and relationships.
Right on. Western leaders often misinterpret the importance of relational influence as they mistakenly rely on formal structures. But truly effective leadership here in the Middle East is all about connection. It even suggests that the best leaders are those who don't even need to push power. Power naturally comes to them.
For sure, that's a smart insight. It really seems that understanding these dynamics can transform how decisions are made and how leadership is perceived, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's like if you truly read the room and understand the trust dynamics at play, your ideas and recommendations have a much greater chance to move smoothly without unnecessary friction or delay.
Yeah, totally. To wrap it up, it's clear leadership in the Middle East calls for a shift in mindset, moving away from just chasing formal power and instead investing in relationships, timing, and dignity.
Exactly. And that's the heart of it. Leadership here isn't about controlling every move. It's about connecting deeply, listening carefully, and letting influence born of trust drive decisions.
Right on. This has been such an enlightening discussion. I'm sure anyone reading this could take away valuable lessons on adapting their leadership style, especially in diverse cultural contexts.
Absolutely. And remember, decisions here live in relationships, not in the structures of an org chart. If you can start reading the room better, power will follow naturally.
Exactly, absolutely. Well, that's all from our session today. Thanks for the deep dive into this fascinating approach to leadership.
Thank you. And until next time, keep connecting, keep building trust, and let influence lead the way. Thank you for tuning in to the Higher Arabia podcast, brought to you by Matchmaker Number One. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It helps us connect even more talented individuals with opportunities. See you next time. Until then, keep building bridges between cultures and careers.